Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home on the brave on a beautiful June the 18th, 2020, Rondo Deportes. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's been a beautiful, relaxing day down here, and want to say thank you to all the frontline healthcare workers, the nurses, doctors, and first responders, Charlton. And I guess the true question everybody in America must ask tonight: do Black Lives matter to the NFL and college football?
We will find out, Big C. We got to wait for kickoff to find out, but all around the world you can find out. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is powered by Google and Alexa. Anywhere in the world, got a person from Germany listening to Big C Sports today. Really appreciate her. Follow Big C Sports. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV or you'll be looking at a still picture. Big C, everybody's pausing, but we will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
You know, Charlton, veterans go through troubling times all the time, and people really don't understand the mental anguish that many of these men and women suffer through after being in battle overseas protecting this country. And many of them have fallen to this horrific disease called suicide. It's taken some 22 veterans in America a day.
Wow.
You think about that horrific number, even when you compare it to the pandemic that's going on with COVID-19. But it seems our administration thinks that the veterans' health and welfare is the last thing on the table when they think about solving the issues of this country. And we give out this number throughout our shows, Charlton, and many more other programs do it also.
Yeah.
But we have to find better ways to get assistance to our veterans of this country, to get them some medical and mental help, Charlton, to help stem the tide of suicide that many of them have fallen victim to.
Yeah.
So any way you can help out a veteran by getting them access to some type of mental or social help, never hesitate. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is one of those ways. But we also got to look at many of the youth in our country also, Charlton, that have fallen victim to that horrific disease.
Yeah, they really have. The world never set on the British Empire. The world never sets on Big C Sports. And the world never sets on the Veterans Crisis Hotline, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can definitely get some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T, Uverse TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. When you reach out to them, tell them Big C Central. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it, and sports teams do it too. Watch TV work for your real estate. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. For those of you looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can see some opportunities. Also want to just take the time to say thoughts and prayers and condolences to Mario Molina, one of the employees of our company, passed away. And just want to offer thoughts and prayers to his family, a young man, and has a family that he leaves behind. But again, our thoughts and prayers are with him. Big C, I know everybody has to take every day. You got to take every day and appreciate it. Because there are times when you don't even know that people are ill, and then one day you hear they're gone. It just doesn't make any sense, but God has his own plans. We got to appreciate every day. I want to give you a thought on POTUS as we talk about some NFL football. And, we talk so much about things that just, seem to come true. The Supreme Court's making some noise about telling POTUS no. But I also said POTUS capitulated, and for some reason, he said Colin Kaepernick, that he supports Colin Kaepernick plan. He says, I support that SOB plan, Big C, if somebody gives him a job, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's been a tough week for POTUS all week long, Charlton. He's lost two Supreme Court battles where he was trying to eliminate health, discrimination against the LGBT community, Charlton, and he was also trying to eliminate the DACA plan that President Obama implemented. Matter of fact, President Obama implemented both of those. One is under the Affordable Care Act, and then he also protects the Dreamer kids who were brought into this country by their parents by no fault of their own.
Yeah.
But, as a president, and you're talking about bringing the country together and that you're empathetic and you're the least racist person that you know, so you only know two people, evidently.
Yeah.
And to come out and try to destroy families intentionally with malice, that's what he's trying to do. And then, to have a change of heart on this Colin Kaepernick scenario, after you said, he should be fired, thrown out of the country, and call him an SOB and everything else. And, this is a guy that can't hold a glass of water without using two hands, so his state of mind.
Yeah. It's one thing when someone says, we've all been fired at times, it's one thing when someone says you're fired, but when someone says, you fired your SOB, that's a different connotation. You're fired, SOB, Big C.
Well, not only that he was fired, he wanted him fired in the middle of the game and kicked out of the stadium.
Yeah. To me, I told you, people can change, Big C. Doesn't that mean we have hope, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the only thing he hasn't put on something is his white hood with the eyes cut out, to show his true color.
Well, he tried. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg has his own set of problems. I just still think it's funny that fire the SOB. No, I don't care if he plays. You're fired, SOB. Actually, you can have your job back. I mean, it just makes me laugh sometimes. We gotta laugh, Big C. But when you think about Mark Zuckerberg, and we were just talking just the other day. I know Mark Zuckerberg follows Big C Sports. We were just talking the other day how if you're in Germany, I have a friend of mine. He's an older Caucasian guy. He's a military veteran. He actually served this country. He benefited from the GI Bill. He also was able to see Dachau, that concentration camp over in Germany, Big C, where Jews were burned in ovens by Adolf Hitler because the world turned its back. So Facebook pulls down a sign that POTUS had that they were also using in Nazi Germany. This is 2020, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the systemic racism that exists in this country, and people want to say that the president is not a xenophobic, race-hating, individual, have lied and tried to cover for him forever. I mean, but to use these emblems of Nazi superiority, Charlton, that he has used throughout. We had the marches in Charlotte. He said the Nazis and the skinheads and all of the Klan, that they were good people.
Yeah.
He has never disavowed any of those organizations. So you know where you stand if you're a salient thinking person. And when you follow him, that means that you're one of those people also. You got to categorize his faith as being just like him.
Yeah, and I wonder, I know there was a statue that was defaced in Virginia, the late Arthur Ashe. There was a statue and some people that spray painted Black Lives Matter, and some good old boys crossed it off and said White Lives Matter as they debased Arthur Ashe, the statue, Big C. But I just wonder, for people that still, this is a guy by the name of Larry Elder. I've listened to him many years, very conservative, black man. He should read the book Black Like Me by John Howard Griffith. He seems to hate himself, and he hates anything that benefits people who look like him or his children. But I wonder if he condoned that Nazi swastika emblem that POTUS had on Facebook. Facebook says that they give politicians and campaigns wide latitude in what they do on their platform. But isn't it amazing that the man that says, fire the SOBs, you're fired, has had Facebook fire his campaign slogan, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, they push back on a lot of things that are incorrect, and I'm glad that these social media sites do that because they have so much following in the country. And when you put up dishonest things and straight out lies and anti-social sentiments and posters that you put up there, Charlton, it's wrong. And Facebook has taken a personal stance on this to say, we're going to be fair to people, not anarchy.
Yeah, he was also censored by Twitter just a while back when he said he's going to sick vicious dogs and ominous weapons on Americans. And he still had the Nazi swastika up on his Facebook page. And if you're a Caucasian person or an African-American person, Larry Elder to Rush Limbaugh, and you're watching that guy, and he's saying things, maybe they, you know what, Big C, it just hit me. I just had an epiphany. Maybe they agree with it. That's why so many people don't say anything, but it's all fair and love and war. We just talked about the Supreme Court, 9 Chief Justices, Big C. The Supreme Court rejects Trump's administration, California's sanctuary law on deportation, the DACA law. So I'm really happy for a lot of the workers in California. A lot of people are here, no fault of their own. Maybe their parents didn't come illegally, and the kids couldn't do anything about it. But I know being in California, I've seen for a long time, going up and down the Central Valley, people working in fields many, many years, and then going to school and trying to do the best they could to have a good life. And they've been living in fear for the last couple of years. And to me, it's a step in the right direction, and I think humanity is starting to surface. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you're telling your base that the field workers and the migrant workers are out there taking your jobs, and picking tomatoes and peaches and oranges and strawberries, those are the jobs that should be given to decent white Americans, is what the president said. But yet none of them will go out there and do those farm labor jobs. They don't want to work on dairies, Charlton. They don't want to work in poultry processing plants, meat processing plants. So, but the president tells the lies that they've taken all the corporate jobs in America. And when you're unintelligent and you listen to someone who lies to you, and they lie to you enough, you believe that. So, he's ridden that coattail, Charlton, of inequality and falsehood. And so that's where his base has gone to. I mean, when you think about the people that are sitting outside an arena in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they've been there for over a week waiting on him to arrive in town, and they said they're not worried about the coronavirus. That shows the lack of salientness of the people that follow this man, is that you're willing to put your health at risk to sit up and listen to a guy lie to you for 2 hours.
It's interesting how I remember you brought up, I believe it was about a week ago, if the Democrats control the 13 former Confederate states, they control 170 of the 200 electoral votes that's necessary to become president of the United States. If they control 33% of the House, there's 26 members of the Senate. They'll need only 25 from the other 37 states, and that's about 20% of the other 37 states to control the House and the Congress. I'm really hoping that people will do the mail-in ballots, and what I'm very, very hopeful for, Big C, and I appreciate you bringing that information up. I think you did it about a week ago, and I've been looking more and more at how this push for people to be afraid and for people to not want to get out and do anything because they're afraid of whatever reason. If you're afraid of COVID-19, that's okay, but don't let it stop you from voting. There are these mail-in ballots, but what I also want to mention, I was listening to a news station just the other day. Some of the ballots are no longer saying Democrat or Republican. They're just giving the name of the person you're voting for, so people really got to Google who they're voting for before they cast their vote. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, one of the reasons the president doesn't want the mail-in ballots because it allows those people who don't have the transportation to get to some of the limited voting polls that they have now because of how they've gutted the Voting Rights Act 2 years ago in the Supreme Court. And they've cut down these polling stations. People just don't always have access. And a lot of these places, when you look at working class people, close down, Charlton, prior to these people getting off work or an hour after they get off work, so they just don't have the time. They're forcing people to give up a day of pay to go vote. And you're talking about people living on a margin that need every day and every hour of work that they can to make ends meet at the month. That's what they're trying to force people into. When you were listening at the president talking about defunding the post office, let it go bankrupt, that is the reason why he doesn't want the post office operational, because of the mail-in ballot. If you have no postal service, you can't mail in a ballot.
Especially when they close some voter districts too, some polling booths. My thought again, no matter what color you are, whether you're Democratic, black, white, brown, doesn't matter what color, If you vote, you may get health care, living wage, decent unemployment, sick leave, justice reform, reparations, and an end to this criminal justice garbage where people are punished just for trying to get out and do right. And if you're on probation and you miss an appointment, then they can lock you up in jail for about a year. I think that's what happened to the gentleman down in Georgia. And that's just mental terrorism also. That should not happen. We need to treat more people of color as if they're white, and that would help to ease some of the burdens on the criminal justice system. Would you believe that since the George Floyd's death, Big C, actually his murder, I want to be accurate about that, some 3 weeks ago in Minneapolis, there have been 120 police officers shooting of American citizens, Big C. Your thoughts?
120 police officers killing of American citizens. And I guess all that goes back to the preamble that you talk about a lot in the Constitution about liberty and justice and fair treatment, Charlton. I don't know how people consider it fair treatment when you're being gunned down on the streets. I understand police have a tremendously hard job.
Yeah. And
I respect them for the job that they do. But when you do something wrong, you're wrong, period, regardless of what line of work that you're in. And you should not be protected and be covered for when you commit a crime, regardless of the position or title that you hold in America. And so, these things really have to have a deep, long discussion, not just discussion, but look into.
Yeah.
And here it is, with the officers being charged in Atlanta. I hear the conservative news talking about, well, that's a rush to judgment. They were going to arrest this young man that night before they killed him.
Yeah.
So was that a rush to judgment? 42 minutes after having a confrontation with him, you were going to arrest him, and then you decided to kill him instead of arresting? Which one would you consider a rush to judgment?
Well, I think a lot of conservative talk show hosts and TV pundits, they have no remembrance of Dylan Booth, who murdered 9 African Americans in a church.
And that was a week ago yesterday.
And they took him.
Well, 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yesterday.
Yeah, not that long ago. They took him to a hamburger place and then booked him. They didn't do that. I mean, even when we had these school shootings, oftentimes those guys live. They talk them out. They bring in the SWAT team and they try to talk them down, and then they put them in cuffs and then take them in. They don't murder them on the spot, Big C. But it's all fair and love and word. That's why we got to talk about things and make sure it happens. I do want to cover something that's also going on down south. I know we were talking about the Juneteenth coming up. We'll touch more on that tomorrow too. But in college football, in this, I believe is now the Big 12, used to be the Southwest Conference, University of Texas. I believe Texas is adding on about 15,000 seats to their football stadium. But they've had 13 players test positive for COVID-19 since having get-togethers again. They haven't played a down of football. They haven't had a kickoff. They haven't been playing a 2 or 3 hour game against anyone. So if you get 13 players test positive, and there's another 10 players that also have to self-quarantine because of that, are we really want to tell these kids and coaches get out there and play football again? Big C, your thoughts?
I've been asking that ever since COVID started, Charlton, do Black Lives Matter? Not because of George Floyd's death, but because of athletics. These are the people that everybody's crying, talking about, we got to get sports back, we got to get football back, we got to get basketball back. Everybody is sitting on pins and needles trying to get these black athletes back out there to perform. You got to understand, of the 13 players that tested positive at the University of Texas, there was only 58 players in attendance.
Wow.
So 13 out of 58 tested positive, not the entire squad. 13 out of 58 players who showed up tested positive. Now, you put that in correlation with players that have tested positive for the Dallas Cowboys since they opened their facility.
Yep.
Players that have tested positive for the Houston Texans. And we're not talking about the other 25 universities that are there in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
As you go all across that huge state. So when you add up all the numbers of athletes that potentially can be infected by this COVID-19, you still have to ask yourself, do Black Lives matter? Or is the money more important than those black lives? You don't care how many of these players you get infected, because there's no way in football you can practice social distancing.
Yeah.
I'm not the most intelligent person around. Matter of fact, I'm not all that smart to start with. But when you look at it, the last I checked, football is 100% contact. So there's no social distancing in any aspect of football. From the time you walk into the locker room to the time you walk out of the locker room after practicing or playing.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as social distancing in football.
No, there's Tom Hanks says there's no crying in baseball. There's also no social distancing in football. But just one more thought on that conference, on the Big 12 conference. Oklahoma State is also in that conference. There's a newspaper article that came out today from 31 years ago. Your guy with the OAN network tattooed on his shirt, Big Z. Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy. An article expanded on by linebacker Alfred Williams from Oklahoma State that the language that he used in the games, with all the profanities that he used and racial epithets, and other players were wondering, how could you raise children like that? And even how can you get a job when they look into your background so much, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Gundy did 2 press conferences this week, Charlton, where he denied using any type of racial epithets or being insensitive. There was the thing about stuff that goes in audio and print is it goes into a file.
Yeah.
And people have a tendency to have a memory sometimes. I know I've lost a lot of mine.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
the reporter said, wait, I remember that person.
Right.
And he went and pulled up the article that he wrote.
Yeah.
And it's in black and white from 1989 when Mike Gundy was the quarterback for Oklahoma State. And he was calling the N-word up and down, the SOBs, and any other racial epithet that you could use. And this was documented in the newspaper that players were, laminate about it because here it is, he's using this type of thing towards teammates and opponents.
Yeah.
And here it is, you're saying today, remember, he's a grown man. That's what he said.
I'm 40, I'm a man.
He's a grown man, so I don't know what he is right now.
Yeah.
But, for Oklahoma State to keep standing beside Mike Gundy, it's a smear on all athletes and universities across the country.
Yeah.
That you have documented evidence of an individual using and feeling this way about people of culture. And then he's going to go out and lie in a written statement that he couldn't even write himself.
Yeah.
But if Oklahoma State holds on to Gundy, then there's no justice.
Yeah, they have a gentleman as a Chuba Hubbard, that running back out of Canada. He's NFL ready already. I don't know why he wants to, number one, risk COVID-19 and also go play for a coach who uses the N-word like a handshake, but you can't shake hands anymore, but maybe he uses it under his breath. But everybody has their own thoughts. If you think about what Facebook did, they took down the swastika symbol that POTUS had on Facebook. Maybe he's going to say it wasn't him, that someone in his administration did it, but there's a lot of conservatives starting to turn against POTUS, because I still say those Caucasian men that he surrounded himself with, a lot of them saw their kids and grandchildren protesting, and people who look like them, white children, being sprayed with mace or whatever they were spraying them with, and shooting them with rubber bullets. And all they were trying to do is stand up for the First Amendment, Big C. But things will change. I want to go down to the southern part of the planet. In Sydney, Australia, would you believe National Rugby League match was postponed due to COVID-19? They had a false positive, and they're going to resume it again. Now, we just talked about Texas having, I think, 13 players. There were another 10 players that came in contact with them. I believe there's also another school in their conference. It may be Kansas or Kansas State that had about 8 players test positive. We talked about the Dallas Cowboys and also the Houston Texans. But down in Australia, Big C, it's a worldwide thing. And I hope that college football can learn that these people playing professional sports, they're usually adults. College kids are sometimes 17, 18, 19 years old. They're not 21. They can't go out and buy liquor. Don't do that to them, because some guys, they're going to just follow guys like Gundy and do it anyway. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, if you listen to the medical experts, especially Dr. Fauci, he said there's no way that football can be played safe in America.
Safely,
and everybody understands it. If social distancing has been so prevalent and the way to function in America, why do people keep insisting that sports can play safely?
Yeah.
You can't put football in a bubble like they're trying to talk about putting the NBA in a bubble.
Yeah.
But the NBA is also an anti-distancing sport.
Yeah.
When you're playing defense, you got to be within arm's length of your opponent. Otherwise, you get a technical foul.
Yeah.
So to play defense, you've got to be up on a guy. And we see that all the time, pressing all the way up and down the floor of players. And so as they constantly keep saying, well, it's safe, we can test the players, every couple of weeks or every couple of days or whatever. You can't. And when I look at these sports, especially the major sports in America, and this is the reason why the baseball players are not falling head over heels to play. They've had a half dozen proposals on the table this week. They don't care. They understand that they don't feel like risking their lives, but everyone is saying you got to get the black guys out there playing basketball. You got to get the black guys out there playing football. I would love to see all the black athletes say Black Lives Matter, and we're not going to play, and see how many teams go out there and suit up with just white players.
We talked about the Tuskegee experiment where the government injected over 400 black men with syphilis, and they did not tell them. They allowed them to go cohabit with their wives and girlfriends because they were trying to figure out how their experiments with a vaccine would work on black men before they started giving it to white people. And as horrific as that was, Big C, you think about the new experiment. It happens to be the black male. They're experimenting with people in the penitentiary. We already know that. They give them whatever injections or medicines they have to. They put it in food, by what I hear from other people. And I've always wondered, why would a guy who has $1 million in the bank, even if you don't, why would you go out there, if you read even a little bit at a first grade level, why would you go into an environment where you had over 118,000 deaths, the majority of people dying from it, they're African American, and you have people on TV saying, we got to get sports back, and like you always say, they won't even get together. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, on the first part about the Tuskegee part, Charlton, do you believe those doctors believed in the preamble to the Constitution when they were injecting those black men intentionally with syphilis through that entire experiment, or the United States government? Did they believe in the preamble when they tortured people for decades by giving that to them and causing afflictions within them and their families? But as I look at all these black athletes, it's not even about the dollars and cents, Charlton. Because many of these black athletes have pre-existing conditions, and everyone doesn't understand that. You got athletes with sickle cell, you got them with diabetes, Charlton, you got them with high blood pressure, you got them with asthma. There's all type of ailments with these black athletes that play professional ball. There's blood disorders and everything that some players can't play in Denver because the altitude is too high. So when you look at these black athletes, and like I keep saying, Black Lives Matter, but do they matter to the public about a black athlete? I mean, we can always talk about police injustice, but you have to look at the totality of what these leagues are talking about putting black lives through. Go out there, get ill. Maybe you'll recover, you'll be okay, but we need entertainment. Like I said, field the teams just like you did in the NFL and the NBA, just like you did in the 40s and 50s, early 50s, when there was no black players.
Well, that may not happen because the Ivy League is not talking about getting back and playing like the Big 12 Conference. We're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And when we come back, we're going to talk more. Baseball players, they're saying they'll take 70 games. The league says no, 60. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all around the world on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. And I really appreciate where things are growing with Big C Sports. Big C, we just talked a little bit about Major League Baseball. As you're saying, they're playing ping pong. It's like one group says, we'll play 60 games. The next group says, no, let's play 70 games. Okay, we'll give you 70. Well, we want 50 games. We'll take more money, take less money. I think at some point in time is a lot like the guy that sees the girl and he wants to go up and ask her for her phone number. Or maybe the woman wants to go up and ask the man for his phone number, but they're a little bit afraid of rejection, so they won't do it. But this time, players are not afraid of rejection. They're trying to stand up for their health, and they're playing that game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they're not playing the game, Charlton. They don't want to go out there and risk over this broken season their overall health, where they may not ever be able to play again.
Yeah,
that's what baseball understands. And when you have an intelligent union negotiating for you. You're not asking individuals. You're asking your representative, just like the owners ask their representatives when they send their commissioner to stop for them, Charlton. But baseball has the best union in all of professional sports.
Yeah.
But these guys also understand because they've looked at what's going on over in the Asian countries where they're playing baseball.
Yeah.
And they said, do we want to put ourselves through that? And there's players that are testing positive over in those Asian countries without having anybody in the stadium. You can't practice social distancing. Baseball players by nature, they're going to grab themselves in the crotch.
Yeah.
They're going to spit
yeah.
tobacco and sunflower seeds. They're going to wipe the sweat from their brow. They're going to touch their face all throughout the game.
Yeah.
They can't stop it. It's human nature what they do.
Yeah.
And you're saying all the things that they do naturally is what potentially can harm them or potentially kill them. So these baseball players are not in dire straits trying to get out there and play. And the way most of their contracts are structured, they're paid year-round. So they're not broke. Everybody that was in the major league has enough money to get through.
Are you saying that baseball players have to grab themselves by the crotch? You don't think that's an involuntary reaction like blink? You got to blink. You said this at the same thing, mixing your thoughts?
Does a dog lick himself?
Some dogs do because they can't find someone to date. It's all fair, Livermore. I want to just take a side note. They have this show called The Bachelor. It's taped out here in California, and I think usually is a white guy, and they got 50 white girls for him to hang out with, and maybe one or two, African Americans or Asian or Hispanic, and he gets to kiss all 50 women. And now that we got COVID-19, they made a black man. He's a former football player. They gave him the chance to kiss 50 women. Isn't he afraid of COVID-19, or will they only handshake? Mixing your thoughts?
Well, maybe that's the reason why they chose a black man to be the bachelor because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
And you have to practice social distancing. So you can imagine the upheaval that's going to bring in those Trump-based states that they'll stop watching the show.
Yeah. You start having a black man kissing 50 white girls. Let's say black lives don't matter anymore. I want to go back to the days of miscegenation laws, but it's all fair, level war. I do want to cover NCAA college football, and I know everybody has their own thoughts about things, but the NCAA, the FCS, which is formerly Division I AA, they're going to host a virtual media day. And I juxtapose that to what they're doing down in the Big 12 conference where 13 players from Texas tested positive for COVID-19. So you have programs in the Ohio Valley, in the Southland and the Southwestern Athletic Conference, the Northeast, the Southern Conference, the Big South, the Big Sky, Pioneer League, Patriot League, Missouri Valley, Ivy League. Would you believe Ivy League is saying we'll do a virtual conference, not to get together like Texas with 13 COVID-19 cases? Mixing your thoughts?
Well, all the Power 5 conferences have already slated that they're going to do a virtual press conference, that they're going to, everybody's going to be on video conference from their own universities, because with this pandemic, everybody realizes that you can't get together and travel and bring everybody into one city.
Right.
Even though they think of it in that aspect, they don't worry about the players that they get together on the campus, which is, as I think about it, you're not protecting the young men. You only want to protect the old men. But college football really needs to take a deep look at itself, Charleston. And when you look at a lot of these universities, they have some aging coaches that are well above 60 years of age.
Yeah.
We're talking about head coaches and position coaches. Are these coaches putting their life in peril to go out and coach a football team?
No, they're not going to put their lives in peril. But as we talk about the conferences for media, and I guess POTUS moved it back from Friday to Saturday, so it's going to be on the 20th of June, and to avoid Juneteenth by one day. But think about this. Friday's Juneteenth, and the worldwide celebration ending slavery in the United States of America happened 246 years from 1619 to June 19th, 1865. That's only 155 years ago. That was followed by 100 years of Jim Crow, inhumane treatment of people of color, African Americans. That ended 55 years ago on June 6, 1964. So people wonder, is there systemic racism? I know the administration, the Trump administration, they said, no, there's no systemic administration. But when you think about all the things that have happened, there were millions of lives that were lost in the Middle Passage coming from Africa to the United States, and people don't see that there's systemic racism. At the same time, Congress has still not signed an anti-lynching bill that dates all the way back to 1619 when they started lynching slaves in the United States. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I'm wondering, do you believe that statement that, the inhumane treatment of blacks in America stopped 55 years ago? Even with what you witnessed this week, you can't make that statement. The inhumane treatment of blacks in America has never stopped. It's what's called the prison industrial system. That was a reason why it was formed, to be able to lock blacks back up, Charlton. When we look at the incarceration rate in America, where African Americans are only 13% of the general population, but yet they're 70% of the prison population.
Yeah.
That's disproportionate for a reason. That's inhumane treatment. And then when we saw the young man that was killed in Atlanta the other night, and they said the reason why he ran is because he was on probation. And when you come into any situation with a law officer, you're going to go back to jail for at least a year.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go back to jail. He had just gotten out, evidently. So as we look at the system is inhumane in the way that it treats people. Someone goes in, they do their time, then you hold them another 5 to 10 years on probation. So if they do anything, you have a right to take them right back to jail without even having a trial. So let me know when the inhumane treatment of black people ends. I want to hear that.
Well, they're white guys that probation applies to them too, Big C, and they get...
No. I'm not... See, you can't categorize everybody.
But you asked me a question.
Black lives and white lives matter.
That's not true.
I'm asking, let me know when the inhumane treatment of black people in America ends, because I want to be there at that part.
You just heard me tell you that. If you saw down in Georgia, they had officers that were brought up on murder charges. You know they were black, right? The guy who was murdered was a black man? And you're going to tell me that... Hold on a second. You asked me a question. Let me answer it. You're going to say that the law does not provide for the prosecution of someone who murders you in 2020? Are you trying to say that, Big C? Your thoughts?
I'm saying in generality, Charlton.
I didn't say in generality.
These guys were arrested because there were 2 black prosecutors. There's been 120 Americans killed by police officers since George Floyd's death 3 weeks ago. 120. How many have you heard about being prosecuted? 2 out of 120. What's the percentage of that? Because my math is not that good.
Were they all black, Big C?
That's not the question. I said the equal justice for everybody. I'm going to say that the majority were. Think about Breonna Taylor when she was shot in Louisville 97 days ago, okay? People always want to talk about rush to judgment. 97 days ago, this EMT worker was shot in her bed 8 times by some police officers that went to the wrong apartment. 97 days ago. So where's the justice there?
Well, that's why we have the criminal justice system, and that's why the gentleman down in Georgia...
But you just said a second ago it was fair.
It is fair when you got to prosecute people, Big C. But you happen to believe that most murders are unsolved. They're not all solved, whether it's black or white. But you can't... There's no way in the world, as an intelligent person, that you can say that we do not have civil protections under the law in 2020 that did not exist even in 1964. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 64 and 65. We have protections under the law. Does it mean the jury's always going to acquit people or convict people? No, that's based on the jury. And that's based on people having a lawyer on that's pro and con. Even if you're 2 black Americans going to court, you can sue each other. One has an attorney, the other has an attorney. If one does not get justice, can they say that's racism? Or can they just say, you know what, they had a lawyer that argued better than I did? We at least can go to court. You couldn't go to court when they signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, 97 days ago, Breonna Taylor was shot sleeping in her bed by 3 different police officers, shot 8 times because they went to the wrong apartment. And no charges have been brought against these police officers. All 3 of them are white, by the way. Breonna Taylor was black. And there's been protest after protest about this, Charlton, in Louisville. And so I'm asking, because when we look at these 2 latest situations with George Floyd and the other gentleman in Georgia the other night, that all happened within a week's time. A week's time. Because we saw it on television. In the Breonna Taylor situation, Charlton, we did not see it on television. And these police officers were not suspended. They were not moved to desk duty. Nothing. There's been no reprimand to these police officers.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking, where's the equal justice there in that particular case?
You got to ask the prosecutors in that county. Just like I just explained to you, you can be black on black in the courthouse. One side sues the other. One side wins, one side loses. Does it mean there's no justice because you lost?
Different scenario than
it's not a scenario, Big C, because you have prosecuting attorneys that choose or do not choose to prosecute people. But it doesn't mean there's not the law is there to do it. Whether people do it or not is irrelevant. That doesn't make any sense. You have the law that's there. They didn't have the law back when the Emancipation Proclamation happened, Big C. There are laws that have advanced our society. It doesn't mean you're always going to get a fair shake. But if someone did you harm today, you could take them to court, or you could choose not to, but the court would at least listen to your complaint, Big C, and that hasn't always existed, and you got to acknowledge that. If not, then just have.
You also got to have the financial wherewithal.
But that's not necessarily. You can. They have. They have public defenders.
The law judiciously. You're going to have to be able to pay representation to get in there, and then you got to look at what the ways and means are, and what you potentially may get out of it. If you're not getting enough out of it, you go to court.
Well, you still have a right to do it. And that's why they have public defenders. But you're saying you don't have that right. And I'm just saying reread the law because you do have a right to sue everybody. And speaking of suing people, if you look at what happened, and this is a white man, okay? So don't blame black for this. NCAA college basketball power, Kansas coach, Bill Self. He's a white man. You know he's considering suing the NCAA, which is also predominantly white. You know why he can sue them, Big C? Because you have the right to sue people in the country. If he were a black man, would you believe he could also bring a lawsuit? It's up to the attorneys to win their lawsuit and the juries to decide on who wins. But to say there's no law that allows you to sue, that's just flat out wrong. Your thoughts on Bill Self trying to sue the NCAA? Talking about suing a big mountain, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, there's a difference in suing and criminal. And, you know, when I got off, I was talking about criminal, and we went to civil from that because we're talking about private citizens suing other people. When I look at Bill Self suing the NCAA, it's been done. When I was in college, we had basketball, portion of our basketball team sue the NCAA and get an injunction on them. So you got to look at Bill Self's pocket. You got a guy who makes multi-million dollars a year. He can get anything he wants tied up in courts for years where the NCAA just gets tired of it, and it'll eventually go away. But they're just not going to close the door on Bill Self.
They may not close the door on Bill Self, but for black men and women, it's amazing still that you can opine that black people have no rights under the criminal justice system. And as we said many times, we do. NBA Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban.
Let me ask you this one question on the justice system. I know you brought up this thing with Erin Andrews a couple of weeks ago that she got $55 million for, some white guy peeking through a hotel room door. Do you think that same lineage would have been given to Lisa Salters or another black female reporter, Janelle Hill or somebody, if a guy had a videotaped her in her room? You think a jury in that same jurisdiction would have easily given up $55 million to a black woman?
No, I don't. But could a black woman sue if she felt that her rights were violated? The answer is yes.
I'm just asking equal justice under the law.
Well, no.
I understand
you're misunderstanding. You're misunderstanding, Big C.
A black woman has gotten $55 million.
A black woman can sue, and a white woman can sue, an Asian woman can sue, a Hispanic woman can sue. What the jury does is based on the jury's thoughts of the lawsuit and the merit of that case. But to say that they cannot sue, that's just flat out wrong. They can sue.
I wasn't asking about suing. I was asking about the $55 million. I know she can sue.
Yeah.
I know any nationality can sue. I'm just saying, do you feel that they would have gotten equal treatment under the law, getting $55 million?
From an all-white jury, they may have had it thrown out. I mean, that's just based on fact. But to say they can't sue, that has no sense whatsoever.
They can't sue. I'm asking about equal justice under the law.
Well, equal justice means you can file a lawsuit. There's no law.
Getting the same amount of money. I'm not creating another subject. I'm just asking about the dollar amount.
There's no law.
The monetary. Do you feel that the monetary value to a black woman would have been equal to a white woman?
I just told you, an all-white jury, no. However, there's no law that says what a jury has to award somebody if they're in a lawsuit. That's about a jury saying yes or no, and we know that hasn't been fair based on beliefs. But at the same time, if you think that black Americans fought for their freedom without the help of abolitionists who were white, you just got to read the history books a little bit longer. I want to ask you this question before we close, because our show's coming by real fast. Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, he will take a knee. I think he's Caucasian, skin color at least, and he's going to take a knee with his mostly African-American players. and supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. And I propose, this is my own feeling, Mark Cuban, I would rather he support, as well as taking a knee, U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who's proposed the Marshall Plan for rebuilding Black America the way Truman did it for Europe, Western Europe, and also Germany. And if you're going to tell Sheila Jackson Lee and the Black Caucus that they should stop because the law doesn't protect them, you got to read the law more, Big C. We do have protections under the law. It doesn't mean you're going to win when you sue somebody, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm not trying to sue anybody, but what I'm talking about here with Mark Cuban, it's easy now for owners, coaches, and all that to agree with something that occurred 4 years ago that they all turn their back on. So I don't find sincerity when I hear everybody now giving lip service. Oh, well, okay, well, maybe Kaepernick was right, and we looked at it differently, and my eyes have been opened now. But all of them were grown men.
Yeah.
They were all grown, intelligent men, billionaires, millionaires. And all of them had a different opinion saying, oh, he's trying to denigrate our flag and our military.
Yeah.
Yet he articulated what his stance was about. And evidently you weren't intelligent enough to understand what he was articulating. And so this country went into a complete divide. And so as I hear coaches, owners saying that now I stand and now I understand what it all meant, you understood what it meant before. But it was safe for you to say that you didn't, and that he was fighting against the country and not against an atrocity that Black Americans have been going through for 400 years. It didn't end 55 years ago. It still continues.
Still continues, but he could also be like Jerry Jones and say nothing. I don't say that everybody comes to enlightenment at the same time, and I don't want to throw people under the bus, even if they get on the back of the bus, because they could do like Jerry Jones and say, the hell with you. I'm not saying nothing for you. But I don't want to throw people under the bus because of that. I do want to ask you, in the last few minutes, because you talked about juries, would a black woman get awarded $55 million? Jemele Hill got let go by ESPN, I believe they let her go, for just saying some things that were true about Trump, but it was negative, and they took her off the air. I know Erin Andrews got $55 million from a white jury for a white man spying on her, seeing her naked. So that's a jury. I want to ask you about this. Carolina Panthers, last night, they sent out a tweet to their fans with 3 players' names on it. They were asking the fans, like a jury, to pick the 3 greatest Panthers of all time. They had Luke Kuechly, Julius Peppers, and Steve Smith. There was no Cam Newton, who's been a league MVP and took him to a Super Bowl. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I felt it was short on the organization to try to eliminate Cam in any kind of way. I mean, they could have had the 4 names on there. I mean, the 3 guys that are on there, it would be hard to take either one of the 3 off the list. When you look at Luke Kuechly, all-pro, all except for his rookie of the year, but he was rookie of the year when he came into the league. Julius Pepper, I believe he's 4th all-time in sacks. And when you look at Steve Smith, the receiver, he's 8th all-time in the NFL in yardage. But, to omit Cam Newton from this, as you say, he's the only Panther that's been a league MVP.
Yeah.
He was the second Panther quarterback to take them to a Super Bowl. And I think that this was just personal as far as the PR and the new owner of the organization not to want to have any affiliation with Cam.
Yeah.
So he had the PR department put this together and do it without putting Cam Newton on the list. But, I mean, you have to be stupid and foolish not to realize that Cam Newton was the face of that franchise for 9 years.
Yeah, he was. So just like a jury, everybody, I like red wine, you like moonshine. Does it mean that my tastes are better than your taste buds, Big C? We all have a right to choose. Also, speaking of choosing, if we go all the way over to Monaco, track and field world champion, 100-meter champion, Christian Coleman, he missed a drug test, just like people missing their probation appointments, and he's suspended. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, I mean, he probably couldn't get on a train or a plane because of Corona. They got social distancing and you got to wear a mask to get on a plane. Probably missed the flight. Minnesota Vikings all-pro running back Dalvin Cook. He's in contract holdout, decided to get off the contracts talks with the Vikings. Chuck Foreman, Adrian Peterson, Dalvin Cook. I would say the 3 best running backs that the Vikings have ever had. They gave Kirk Cousins some money, but I don't think he's one of the 3 best quarterbacks they've had. I would go Fran Tarkenton, Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham. But they gave Cousins money. And he's not even one of the top 3 quarterbacks they've ever had for the Vikings. Why are they making Dalvin Cook struggle, Big C? Your thoughts? Well, Charlton, this is what running backs go through nowadays in the NFL. You still got 2 years left on your contract. Dalvin Cook has not played a complete season since he's been in the NFL. Last year was his most productive season, 14 games in the 3 years that he's been in the league. He's suffered injuries every year that he's been in. I understand that he wants a big payday, but they're not paying all the running backs that much money nowadays. He needs to take a look or even give a call or a tweet to Melvin Gordon, and he was with the Chargers last year, who is now in Denver, and ask him how well did that holdout work for him.
Yeah, he can ask how well that holdout worked for him. And I appreciate everything that people are doing in the sports world. Really pay attention to Juneteenth tomorrow. Big C in the final minute. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. And he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, why can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I want to say thank you to the frontline healthcare workers, the nurses, doctors, and first responders. But I wonder every day, and even though I've played the sport, why these young black men so anxious to get back out there and put their health and their life in peril, and why all these organizers so anxious to get them back out there.
Me too. You can find out every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know anybody going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no one should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.